Okay, we're good. You don't know it, but there's a little time lapse thing, and I have to wait for Bill to go like that. And how wonderful to see you here, have you here in our midst. This is the second to last, the penultimate, correct?
Right.
The penultimate poetry and organ concert. And you probably have already noticed that we're missing the real guy, the real, I'm just a pretend, I'm just a lowly poet, cowboy, but the guy who can run that thing, he's not here today. But we have somebody just as fabulous, in my opinion, the Associate Director of Music, Jill Truax. And she might be more intercessory than interpretive but although she's going to kind of tune to what she hears, she's got four things to play, and she can haul them out at any moment, one or the other, And we've got that. You've got some suspense, and we have with us today, all the way from Athens, Tennessee, Patricia Waters. We go quite a ways back as friends, and I want to tell you, she did not bring books, and I think it just never dawned on her, or I didn't tell her. I fall down at my job all the time. But I want you to take out one of those offering envelopes. When you hear her, I'm telling you, these two books were both done Anhinga Press, www.anhinga.org, Anhinga like the bird. And you will want to get these books. They are fabulous. I've read them my whole adult life, and I keep coming back to them. And this is like a Pulitzer quality book. And the first one is divine as well. Let me tell you about her. She was born and reared in Nashville, Tennessee, taking her BA in English and History at what is now the University of Memphis. After completing several seasons in field archaeology in Europe, she completed her MA in English at the University of Tennessee, Knoxville. Having lived as a teacher, journalist, community activist in Memphis and New Orleans, she returned to Tennessee, to the Upper Cumberland, where her mother's family pioneered to rear her children, subsequently moving to Athens. A Pew Faculty Grant awarded while she was assistant professor at Tennessee Wesleyan College led her to writers' conferences and repeatedly to the Sewanee Writers' Conference, where her relations with Howard Nemerov, Anthony Hecht, and Donald Justice were crucial to her development as a poet. She earned her doctorate in English at UTK, at University of Tennessee, Knoxville. The poet Arthur Smith becoming a friend and mentor. And so I'm just going to give her to you. I should not take up any more time because she's fabulous.
Thank you, Sean. Okay, I will. Just want to remind everyone to turn off your phones because I have had my own reading interrupted by my own phone before, and it is so embarrassing, but there we are. And I have to make sure, yes, this is off. The first poem comes from a book, my second book, Fallen Attitudes. The photograph is one that I took, and it's a Roman sarcophagus in a museum in Munich. But, I'm sorry, a Roman sarcophagus, okay. Just what you wanted to know. This first poem, I did many, many drafts, and I mentioned it to Sean, and he sent the book of photographs that came out of this occasion. You'll recognize the occasion. I was 19. I watched it on television. There is the train, an old-fashioned idea. The train carries the coffin, not from the city of birth, its commons, its poets, shrines to the Republic, promises once made to the gathering dead. The train departs the great metropolis, a June day, early June, warm weather, clear. So many line the tracks, honor guards, little leaguers in uniform, whole families at attention, many their hands on their hearts. There are signs, crude lettering of the deeply felt. And there is the singing, the one song that trails from the cathedral onto the city streets, song of the glory, the terrible swift sword, song following like a comet trail, song welcoming the oncoming train, so many on platforms, so many on rooftops, so many by the wayside, standing, watching, the stunned, grief-soaked faces, waiting for the body, coming to attention to the body on the train, going to the Capitol, the train so slow, slowed by the many, arriving at night, the dark limousines sliding past the memorial, the looming seated figure, the brooding figure, the one who gave the last full measure, the body going to the grave of the brother, the nighttime folding into the earth, the children, the widows watching, there to rest, there to subside, into time, into memory, into forgetting. Flags. There were so many flags. What leaves, never to return? I don't know about you all, but I come from a generation where we memorized poetry in our public schools, and especially poetry for public occasions. We have in April something called Patriots' Day, and there's a poem by Henry Wadsworth Longfellow that we recited as a class, and you'll hear some of that, which I can still recite from memory, the first lines anyway. In pursuit of spring, Patriots' Day, in 8th grade, we recite Longfellow. Listen, my children, and you shall hear of the midnight ride of Paul Revere on the 18th of April in 75. Hardly a man is now alive who remembers that famous day and year, nor a woman either. But I remember Henry Wadsworth Longfellow, 101 famous poems. Aunt Edwina gave me a copy when I was about 12. By the title of each poem, the poet's medallion portrait, Longfellow looking like someone's mad uncle or Karl Marx. And I look back, the book, the words yet retrievable, as if on a height, looking down as we do in dreams, like that Grant Wood painting of Paul Revere's ride, warning, the British are coming, the British are coming. Longfellow, writing in 1860, sense of crisis like a pulse beat. Lincoln's election, then South Carolina seceding. A poem become a call to action, oneth by land, twoeth by sea. I am riding in the sky above Paul Revere, floating over that eerily lit scene. The horse outstretched on the unspooling ribbon of road leading to our future. The horse passes the churches white looming. People hearing the call stand in doorways, in the road, at windows. Midnight. The world waits for the shot not yet fired. The past still galloping forward. And if I wish, I can order a museum-quality reproduction, hand-printed by an experienced artist, shipped free, happiness delivered. Who will remember? What warning in our hour of darkness and peril and need? What call to action now? I like to do etymologies. I love the OED, and through my old university account, I still have access to it. And this has a bit of an etymology in it. The title, A Homemade World, comes from a poem by Elizabeth Bishop. Looking at the whiteness of the pillowcases for any stains, I snap their damp bodies to hang them from the drying rack, positioned against the back white wall of the house in hope, mine, not the house's. The sun, having warmed the wall, will dry these white cotton sacks that hold my dreams, imbuing some scent that hints of spring, if not summer. This Mardi Gras day, some killjoys insist on calling Shrove Tuesday. Shrove, an ecclesiastical survival from medieval dark, slant of light from under a closed door, of shrift or shriving, those 3 days before ash descends upon us when we confess, 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 shrives ancient roots buried, Latin and German still speaking to each other, when the power to write meant the power to impose penance, some anonymous hand writing things down, a list of things done, things left undone. As many of you know, the mandatum novum was the last commandment that Christ gave on the night he was taken. And it is both the simplest and the most difficult. It is that we love one another. Mandatum novum. Lincoln assassinated, Titanic sinks, and we are told to love one another. All converge, a collision of immovables on this year's movable feast. Sheer Thursday, Maundy Thursday, having confessed, bright, pure, cleansed, we can celebrate, however briefly. After all, the Confederacy is surrendering somewhere all month long. If we only had a stake, if it only had a heart, April being so cruel and all. Jill, thank you. In 2017, there was an essay or piece in the New Yorker about a syndrome that afflicted refugee children in Sweden. And there was a term for it, and I'm going to mispronounce the Swedish, uppgivenhetssyndrome, or resignation syndrome. And I began this poem, and it just became unwieldy, pages and pages. And with the situation of refugees from Ukraine and then Gaza, and I came back to it, and I just said, all right, let's just cut to the chase. And the title of the poem is Angels Unawares. Be not forgetful to entertain strangers, for thereby some have entertained angels unawares. Hebrews chapter 13, verse 2. People scatter all over the earth, blown this way and that by fugitive winds. The vast unknown they eat with their daily bread, when they do eat. Wayside places where they stop and rest, if it is rest. Water, always a question. A perilous crossing, perhaps an arrival, something called temporary asylum. Another perch from which to fly. Days passing, hearts wasting, and a new malady, a soul sickness caught when the child learns the family is going to be departed. In a coma-like state, the child lies down, what the Swedes call giving up syndrome. They breathe, these children, but neither see nor hear. They go into a room at the back of the mind, shut the door, turn the key. Paradise lost, as when refuge none was found, and Adam was all in tears. That last line was from John Milton's Paradise Lost, and that was another one of those. Of man's first disobedience and the fruit of that forbidden tree, whose mortal taste brought death into the world and all our woe, with loss of Eden, till one greater man restore us and regain the blissful seat. Sing, heavenly muse. I love Milton. No apologies, okay. Do y'all remember there was once a hurricane called Michael? Y'all remember that one? There was a conference, Anhinga Press, in Tampa, and Sean was there for sure. And I wrote this poem on the return to Troy, Alabama, where I was teaching. I know it's a joke, from Athens to Troy. And it has an epigraph from Genesis, the 11th book, verse 1. And the whole earth was one language, one speech. From Tampa to Troy. The conference is now a wad of receipts stuffed in an envelope, a throat scratchy with fatigue, a bone-tired body, 7 hours in that car, half of Florida I rolled past, half of that half, dead towns, ruined, so ruined, nobody wants anything from them. But it's Sunday, and I spot daddy-daughter camo, three-wheelers in mud cake trucks, and the churches, at least the little baby Jesus holding his tabernacles, are packed. Only sinners on the road, roaming up and down the earth with their dreams of yesterday. Arguments about post-classical alleluia, the dropped H from the Hebrew restored to hallelujah in Tyndall's Bible, the one he was strangled, then burnt for. His last words, Lord, open the eyes of the King. Well, today we demand praise. A good, solid Anglo-Norman, one-syllable smack of an imperative that resounds all the way to Alabama and back to Georgia, no matter the lines on the maps. That hurricane, the one named for an archangel, what it obliterated. This is what happens when you hang out with poets. You get into arguments about things like alleluia and hallelujah, okay? It is what it is. I'm eating a seed cake, toasted. It tastes like the Ottoman Empire. The bees are disoriented, their hives collapsing. They collapse into acronym. And the honey that was grease, no more. The jar scraped clean. The ant can find no place, no trace. A scout, he carries the white flag of surrender, or maybe of Easter, if you believe in such things. Sunlight. Sunday down south, the 25th of January, warm enough, the door open about a foot, light in a long, acute angle lies across the floor. The screen door is locked. Train blast, the great horn, long warnings into Sunday quiet. No road noise, too early. Birds, wind shift, light glinting. A great magnolia sparkles, except for the evergreens. Their branches throw their bare spikes against the bright pale blue. Winter light, winter clear. 2 months to go. The novel I finished reading last night, it's in my system like a drug, a hangover, numbing, dulling, but for something dark, unseen, some residue, some faded turn. I have outlived myself. What now? At this Anhinga conference, there's an Anhinga poet by the name of Keith Ratzlaff, and he often comes and reads, and I love his poetry. I just love his work. And he wrote a poem about the annoying teenager who lived down the street who was always trying to start his car, always at the wrong time of day or night. But he celebrated that teenager being there in his life, even the annoyance. And he called it a jubilate. And there was an 18th century poet by the name of Christopher Smart, who was, quite frankly, insane and often locked up in Bedlam. And he was a friend of Dr. Samuel Johnson's, and he would stop people in the street and ask them to pray with him. And in his cell in Bedlam, he had a cat, and he wrote many a jubilate for his cat. And this is a jubilate for something vernal, something rude, and I wrote it for Keith. For I will consider my neighbor the noisemaker, whose machines roil the air as he cuts and trims and reduces what the world sends him. Let us give thanks, let us give praise for the purple-blue periwinkle climbing the ditch of its winter oblivion, for the careless violet, for the obese dog walker with his miniature overbred pet, so prone to biting it must wear a cone, for the grape hyacinths, suddenly assertive as small things can be, for that first daffodil by the oak, yet wearing its sere dead leaves. Rustling and dry, his secretary said, as Bertram Russell's old hands creeping up her skirt. For the second daffodil that decided to join her, for the crocus, both yellow and purple, for the two women speed walkers talking, their words floating behind them like scarves, for the greening grasses, for the thin film of bud that will burst into the uncontainable, for the narcissus poeticus waiting in the dark where I put them last fall, for their patience, gathering the force of their memory to muscle through what covers them, shouting the announcement, both vernal and rude, she is here, naked, shining, ours. Thank you. How do I follow that? This poem has a reference to the Lazarus story, but also to the American artist Agnes Martin. That loner dude, the one who lives down the road a ways, that's the title. He stinketh, his sister warns, after 4 days in the dead end of his cave. If you'd been here, the other sister accuses, he'd still be alive. So Lazarus is raised from the dead. The story comes around each year for All Saints, Halloween, La Dia de los Muertos. But what happens to Lazarus after his 15 minutes doing whatever people do, just to die a second time? Maybe Lazarus never died. He lives off the grid in a trailer outside Galisteo, New Mexico, makes sculptures with what he finds in the desert. Some art world types come looking for him now and again, wanting to talk about Agnes Martin. He rides a Harley, wears black leather, lots of tats. You should see the rows of the incarnation across his back. He keeps his wallet on a chain and his dog close. My priest liked it anyway. As some of you know, we are going through some paroxysms in this country where people seem to be afraid of books. I taught high school in Williamson County, Tennessee, for a couple of years, and I got into it with a couple of parents on both sides of the question. One set of parents didn't like it that I was teaching Joseph Campbell, and another group of parents didn't like it that I was having children memorize the 23rd Psalm, which was in our British literature textbook. Okay. Can't please everybody. And this title, okay, is Seahorse Sex Upsets the Mothers of Williamson County, Tennessee. And there was a book that they protested against called Seahorse, the Shyest Fish in the Sea. The mothers of Williamson County are upset. Apparently, seahorse sex is very upsetting, especially in a book for readers ages 4 to 8, a book illustrated in living sea-wavy color. You see, seahorses twist their tails together and they twirl gently around, changing color until they match each other to signal that they are a pair. There goes the neighborhood. What kind of example is the seahorse setting us? Seahorses are faithful to one mate and often pair up for life. How wildly improbable. Humans cannot live to such a standard. Our children are being set up for failure. They're being misled by false expectations. Not to mention, she can put her eggs into his pouch, and he gives birth. The world turns upside down. Yet we float in possibility, in the delicate dance of creatures at home where they are, mating, matching in the rhythms of the sea, where once hot chemicals pushed through the sea's floor, charging hydrogen, carbon dioxide, until something electric swerves into being. Okeanos, flowing over Lambent Tethys, his sister, the daughter of Mother Earth, the first gods, urgent in their engendering, fluid, ever-changing, where once we were protean little eggs, waiting to be poured out into a surging sea. So one day, we can dance to its rhythm. A twirl, our tales entwined. And this poem is going to lead directly to Jill. The Union of Concerned Scientists is concerned for me. This week, they sent me a bumper sticker, "Stand up for science." Kind of hard to do in a car, but hey, we get the message. Around Christmas, the season of giving, etc., they send me a calendar. And each month, there is a jokey science cartoon or climate disaster, no joke. Or maybe a twofer, a joke on the disaster. I'm not a scientist, but I have a checkbook. And that counts for something. Because the message is wake up, meaning listen to us, the scientists, before it's too late. But it was too late yesterday. So every day is like the beginning of Brahms' First Symphony. Violins and cellos going up, up, up in one direction, woodwinds and violas going down, down, down in another, and behind them, the drums beating us, the orchestra, the world, into submission. So we are torn in two like a piece of paper, one part exultant, the other terrified of what's coming, or maybe both at the same time. Look at us, we know so much, and holy freaking Christ, what are we gonna do? What's plan B? So you see, I too am concerned, very concerned. But I'm not sending you a calendar or a bumper sticker, and you don't even have to write a check. Just go listen to the Brahms while you can.
Well, this was going to be the closing piece, but after that, I have to do this now, okay?
Yes. If you don't mind, I'm going to read this last poem, which has a kind of Lenten vision. I was in Rome Ash Wednesday last year, and I went to the Eucharist in the Anglican Church, and I was walking back across the city, and I was passing by the Senate, and there to my left was San Ivo de Sapienza, and it had been closed that morning, and when I was walking past, this was noonish, it was open, and it's right next to the Senate of Italy, and so it was filled with workers and their office hour, for lunch hour, going to their Ash Wednesday service, and there was an a cappella choir, and so bear with me. This is the close. I just want to thank you for having me. It's been wonderful. So it's a bit crazy. It's called Ode to a Dream. Last night, I dreamt my sister and I were traveling together. We were young, I know, because we were thin and Rome was still cheap. I'm waiting for her at the Castello in the Dolomiti. Like all humanity, we are arriving and departing separately. No Americans here in their quick, dry, dun colors with too many pockets like their own safari. Only Italians, girls and women in linen dresses, and men right out of Caravaggio. I'm buying art. With what? My good looks? But I like it. Who knows? We put it on the walls, tacking over dullish old tapestry, and suddenly the room is alive, movement, color, in a Joan Mitchell kind of way. And I'm thinking of asking him to marry me. He's only 20 years older, so I can take care of him. And my sister won't tell me when her return flight is, but it's through Charles de Gaulle, a rational hell only the French can devise. And then she's gone, disappearing like we all do into some imperium, whether of something or nothing, who knows? But the Italians sing to it. When once they built buildings to it, interior spaces under domes, making a paradise of numbers, and the numbers made music where I went on Ash Wednesday, Sant Ivo alla Sapienza, would I were on the path to wisdom, a Borromini church, all undulant Baroque, an a cappella choir sending waves of Monteverdi around that rotunda, a gathered, humanly inhuman sound, taking my heart to heaven, if not my soul. Thank you. Thank you.
Does it get better than this? Let's do it one more time. It was amazing. Brought to you in part by a woman who can land an airplane on a glacier. I'm not kidding. Next week, we have Jennifer Hawthorne. She's sitting right there. And she's been monitoring this series. And she's ready to pull out all the stops. And we can hardly wait. Patricia, my God, you kill me.
Thank you. Thank you. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
And trust me, her books are worth looking into. You can tell. And I hope you do. Nhinga.org, www.nhinga, spelled like the bird.org. They're available. I have books available, and it works. That website will get you to them. Thank you so much for being here. What a great audience, too. You're so polite and so wonderful. Thank you so much.